Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Unitarian Church in Fall River, as we are here about to introduce Reverend Ken Reeves. God bless you all for being here, and thank you.
Good morning. May peace be in your hearts. May microphones be on. May peace be in your hearts. Through the energy of freedom and the warmth of love, may you live the fullness of being alive. In that fullness, find peace. Through justice and understanding, may humanity be at peace. And may all of life on earth live together in balance and peace. May we read together the affirmation and the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge with freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Let's sing together the hymn number 188. It's in the order of service. It's in the hymnal. It's a shortened version of a longer, slightly longer poem by Rumi. The poem reads, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come." Thank you. The service will have to do with the journey, the spiritual journey, and I love this kind of invitational expression in this hymn. Are there any announcements for the good of the order today?
The Course in Miracles continues every Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., led by yours truly, Reverend Joe, former professor of math and history of astronomy at Stonehill College in Easton, Mass, as well as the UK. Minister from the River, and Alan Lugo, a former deputy director of the Star Wars program in the Reagan administration. Anna Rescott was a commentator and David Knott, aka Dale, who I think is just right. Dale,
Just a reminder, everyone in Fall River, to vote in the primary, civic duty in some cases, and a privilege in a lot of others.
I wanted to make you aware of a few things that are going on coming up. One is next Sunday, the 24th, my friend Gary Fish, local songwriter, singer, musician, is putting on a festival from 12 to 6 at the Cedar Woods Community Center in Tiverton. And it's a benefit for mental health services. I know one place he's having money go to is a place called Thrive in Warren, and I think there's some other places too that any donation can go to. It goes from 12 to 6, as I said. There are going to be musicians there all day long playing probably half-hour sets. He plans on having food trucks there. Dave and I have fortune of playing there. Mike Moriano, Louis Lehman, a few other local people. So that's Sunday the 24th. Friday the 29th, Dave and I will be back at the Belmont Club for the deal. And on Saturday the 30th, Dave and I are splitting with Mike Moriano. Again, many of you know him, he's played here before. We're going to be at the Belmont, the Fall River Arts Center on Belmont Street, which is right near Charlton Hospital. That probably has a fee to get in. I'm not sure what that is. That starts at 7 o'clock. Thanks for listening.
welcome to the Unitarian.
Good morning, everyone. To Reeves with the new program season. Thank you, Ken, for being our leading director, for leading our workshop this morning. Appreciate your resistance.
You're welcome.
And next week, everybody knows Dick Reeves will be here to lead our workshop. So please come and be here.
Again, good morning. Welcome to this Unitarian Church. The Unitarian Universalist Church, I think, is a support community for people on various journeys towards ultimate goals, such as love, or peace, or union. And one of the ways we support each other is by telling stories. There are political stories that say the world could be better. There could be more justice in the world. Our needs could be met better. And here's how. And such a story is supported. There are psychological stories that say your individual life could be better. And here's how. And it's supportive to hear how one could grow and develop and life could be better. There are scientific stories that say the truth can be found. A related story would be a detective story And again, the truth can be found. We can find truth, and having truth is supportive. Life is better with truth. And there are spiritual stories. And spiritual stories involve themes of redemption, or grace, or awe, or mystery. The spiritual story of I once was lost, but now I'm found says that there is support for you. Support exists in the universe. And the idea that there is support is supportive. And we tell these stories. In fact, today's service focuses on that spiritual story of I once was lost, but now I'm found, of journeying into the wilderness and exploring and being, of dying and being reborn. And to hear such a story, I hope, is supportive. Indeed, I hope that on your journeys, you find love and freedom and live the full richness of being alive. Another hymn that kind of reflects the journey quality of life is hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. And let us sing together. Well, the literature of the spiritual journey is vast, and so with great parsimony, I've limited myself this morning to 6 readings. And 6 readings is a lot to do, so I've asked for help and have some helpers here. The first reading is an invitation, kind of a welcome to the journey, a warm and welcoming invitation from Isaac Walton.
Come out from under your 4 walls and roof. Declare a holiday. Take the road with me to Thatch House, that admirable hostelry where good companions gather, where at the end of the day you'll find a good telling of tales, a good singing of ballads, and linen sheets that look white and smell of lavender. Stand with me at midday where the sun casts no shadow, and let us together consider all things concerning our art. I would have you know that tingling mood which comes to all who share the best that they have found. And let us share that humility, which is at once the boon and the true grace of all who learn together.
And another invitation comes from Walt Whitman.
I tramp a perpetual journey. Come, listen all. My signs are a rainproof coat, good shoes, and a staff cut from the woods. No friend of mine takes ease in my chair. I have no chair, no church, no philosophy. I lead no one to a dinner table, library, exchange. But each man and each woman of you I lead upon all. My left hand hooking you around the waist, my right hand pointing to landscapes of continents and public road. Not I, not anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it for yourself. Show me your ducks, dear one, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we shall fetch as we go.
And yet the journey is not easy. To begin the journey means something has to be let go of, and Carl Sandburg reflects that theme. He writes, if you start to go to that country, remember first you must sell everything you have. Pigs, pastures, pepper pickers, pitchforks. Put the spot cash money in a rag bag and go to the railroad station and ask the ticket agent for a long, slick yellow slab ticket with a blue spanch across it. And you mustn't be surprised if the ticket agent wipes the sleep from his eyes and asks, so far? So early? So soon? And then the journey involves being lost, that Dante describes.
In the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself astray in a dark wood, where the straight road had been lost sight of. How hard it is to say what it was like, and in the thick of thickets, in a wood so dense and narrow. The very thought of it renews my panic. It is bitter almost as death itself is bitter. How I got into it, I cannot clearly say, for I was moving like a sleepwalker.
And then Adrian Rich also describes how the knowns are unknown and one is exploring.
The rules break like a thermometer. Quicksilver spills across the charted system. We are out in a country that has no language, no laws. We are chasing the raven and the wren through gorges, unexplored since dawn. Whatever we do together is pure invention. The maps they gave us were out of date by years.
And then finally, Zen Buddhism kind of wraps it all up. When I began studying Zen, mountains were mountains and rivers were rivers. During Zen, mountains were no longer mountains. Rivers were no longer rivers. After Zen, mountains were mountains and rivers were rivers.
the song, I Am a Pilgrim. And it's a traditional song that Merle Travis kind of rewrote a little bit and copyrighted, and probably made a fair amount of money on it over the years. But if anybody lives in YouTube world, you should Google Merle Travis, I Am a Pilgrim. Sounds like he's playing with an entire band. He's got a drummer, a bass, a rhythm guitar, and a lead guitar. It's all him. One guy. So here we go. This is the gospel to I Am a Pilgrim. I am on a pilgrim and a stranger, traveling through this wearisome land. I got a home that yonder city of and it's not many miles. I've got a mother, a sister and a brother who have gone this way before. I had determined to go and see them over on that other shore. Oh, I am a pilgrim and a stranger, traveling through this wearisome land. Oh, I got a home back from the city. It's not many miles. Oh, I'm going down to the river Jordan just to pay my weary soul. If I can just touch the hem of his garment, oh, I know he will make me whole. For I am a pilgrim and a stranger, traveling through this wearisome land. And I got a home that yonder city of it's not many miles, and it's not many miles.
Thanks for that music. Fits right in. Sometimes when someone has to go and address a group of people or perform in some way, a supportive ally tells them, just go out there and be yourself. Hundreds of people watching, just go out and be yourself, right? Easier said than done. Along the same line, when I first met my wife and we were walking to her car, I was hoping for her phone number. She sneezed and had to blow her nose and looked embarrassed. And I said, oh, let's just be real. She and I have been trying to live up to that for 20-something years now. Yeah, not easy. It's hard to be yourself because as children, people learn to be who their parents want them to be. As I see it, children figure out what from them their parents can handle and present that image of themselves to their parents. When parents can't handle a daughter's anger and power, she adopts an accommodating persona. When parents deny a son's sensitivity, he adopts a stoic persona. As children present a palatable image of themselves, the parents love and keep the children. With belonging, the children's belonging is secure, their survival ensured. That's the child's contract with parents. I present to you what you can handle, and you keep me safe and ensure my survival. But then I grow up, and the persona or the facade persists. Now presenting a palatable persona to the world does not let others know the real me and leaves me lonely. Furthermore, I can be so invested in my surface that I do not know my own inner reality. And maintaining a divide between my facade and my real self causes anxiety. And finally, having to relate to someone else's facade grows boring. So be yourself, be real. But I love my persona. It helped me survive childhood. Like a raft that carried me across a raging river, I cling to it, even though I have a road before me and a cumbersome raft holds me back. When people want to be themselves and relate authentically to others, spirituality offers a more complex prescription than just be yourself, namely the spiritual journey. As you desire to be yourselves, you take this journey out from the familiar into the unknown to die and be reborn. As you journey, I wish for you the supportive companionship of each other. As Unitarian Universalists, we tend to value the journey and the quest. When we affirm the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, we support the spiritual journey. When we value the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we free people to journey. The spiritual journey can take a lifetime. It can take a minute. As a newly minted minister, I took a spiritual journey one day at a ministers' meeting. During a discussion of our meeting format, I sat quiet, afraid really of my colleagues. I wondered, what am I afraid of? I looked around at the mostly men of the group at the time and thought of my father. I had admired my dad. He was funny. Everyone liked him. He was the most important person in my life, so I wanted him to like me. But once in a while, as a kid, when I expressed a feeling he didn't like, he would crush it. If I was angry and tried to explain it, he'd say, "You're just rationalizing." I didn't know what rationalizing was, but if he didn't like it, I didn't want to do it. If I was sad, he'd say, "You're just feeling sorry for yourself." Afraid of being a bad son and of him not liking me, I presented a persona of emotional control and caution around my father. At the ministers' meeting, it occurred to me, I'm sitting in a room full of fathers. My self-image was still afraid of losing my father's love. And then a still small voice inside of me asked, what would I do if the fear did not stop me? Father figures all around me. What do I want to do? It was like something was pushing me off a cliff and at the same time holding me and saying, I got you. And I felt then courage and did something I had never done at a minister's meeting. I spoke up and proposed a format for our meetings. I offered a motion. There. That was a spiritual journey. I was neither the first nor the only. As Joseph Campbell says, we do not have to risk the adventure alone, for the heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is thoroughly known. And so I want to indeed describe the essential journey to give you a map of its landscape so that you might feel encouraged on your way and might move through its labyrinth ultimately to be yourself and to wholeness and peace. On the journey, a person sets off for unknown regions and there struggles, dies, encounters male or female divinities, and is reborn with new wholeness and returns to give life to the community. With different characters, embellishments, and emphases, the story is told by Australian Aborigines, Buddhists, Christians, Unitarian Universalists, everyone. The journey begins when the hero realizes something needs to be faced. Like, I'm surrounded by father figures and I'm still afraid. Or in Hamlet, a character observes, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. In another story, Prince Siddhartha, who had been sheltered from all pain by his father, happens for the first time upon an old man. The next day he sees a diseased man, then a corpse, then a monk. And these encounters unsettle him, and he realizes something needs to be faced. Suffering, death, the mystery of life. So one day, he slips away from the palace to begin his journey, in the course of which he becomes the Buddha. This landscape to explore is fascinating and frightening. Like a mountain that calls you to climb it, at some risk to yourself, but that stands like the home of secrets, like the portal to power. Maybe on this mountain, Yahweh will speak to you from a burning bush and tell you to remove your shoes because you stand on sacred ground, and then give you a glimpse of ultimate truth. At this point, the persona can stop the journey. It can see what's coming. It will die. It says, wait, we don't really need to climb that mountain. Climbing mountains won't change anything. When the hero ignores his or her persona and embarks on the journey anyway, he or she is given support. Isaac Walton invites, come out from under your four walls and roof. Whitman echoes the invitation, shoulder your duds, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Additional figures, the helpful crone, the teacher, a friend, give the hero amulets, sayings, and potions, and hints that reassure and promise success. Theseus is given a thread to spool out as he explores the labyrinth, and then to follow back to his entrance. Perseus is given a mirror with which to look at Medusa. Amulets in hand, the hero faces the threshold into the unknown. Guarding the threshold stand pairs of opposites, life and death, good and evil, beauty and ugliness. As a boy, I faced the opposites of good son versus bad son. Tried to be the good son and live up to my father's ideas of who I should be. But I have to give up the good son persona. As Sandberg warns, I must sell everything I have. That good son persona will have to go. And it tries to stop me again. You know the good son. Choose that. But as long as I was choosing to be the good son, I was not crossing the threshold into the unknown of who I am. Not holding to one opposite or the other, good son or bad, the hero journeys through them into the unknown. Walt Whitman journeys through saying, I am not the poet of goodness only. I do not decline to be the poet of wickedness also. Or in a mythology, Jason, seeking the golden fleece, faces two islands that smash into each other, crushing boats. These are opposites. Setting aside the hero's self-image's fearful reasoning, the hero sails through the clashing opposites and enters the unknown. In my case, I pushed through the good son, bad son opposites in search of myself. Having passed the threshold, the hero finds a strange landscape populated by ogres and dragons, violence and seduction. Odysseus encounters the violent Cyclops and the seductive sirens. In effect, one is struggling with the less laudable aspects of oneself, one's inner ogres in the arduous development of self-awareness. Despite even successful struggling, the hero does not conquer this Dante-esque dense and gnarled wood, but is swallowed by it. Jonah is swallowed by the whale. Though Odysseus escapes the Cyclops and evades the sirens, he remains swallowed, wandering through unknown seas in the belly of the whale for 10 years. So swallowed, the hero appears to have died. With Persephone in the underworld, winter descends upon the earth. Jonah's shipmates give him up as lost. Suitors line up to marry Penelope. Jesus is crucified and buried. You and I on our journeys feel lost. The rules break like a thermometer. We're out in a country that has no language, no laws. Mountains are no longer mountains. Rivers are no longer rivers. There is death. Self-image dies. My self-image of being the good son, cautious in front of my father, dies. And for a time, maybe a moment, maybe a month, I do not know who I am. As Robert Frost says, you become lost enough to find yourself. When the good son in me has died, ministers, father figures surround me. In mythology, these are gods who offer both life and danger. One father, Yahweh, permits calamity and death to befall Job. And when Job confronts Yahweh about this, Yahweh answers, but not with an explanation. From a whirlwind, this father declares, gird up your loins now like a man. Hast thou an arm like God? Canst thou thunder with a voice like God? Where wast thou when I laid the foundation of the earth? Though Job's God makes no attempt to vindicate himself, still Job is satisfied. He says, now my eye sees thee, and therefore I repent in dust and ashes. Job's repentance is not logical. He had done nothing wrong. But the self-image and its logic have died. When self-image-less, Job glimpses the entire span of the universe from God's eye view, which satisfies his soul. God then rewards Job with a new house and family and 140 more years of life. On some journeys, the hero confronts not a father, but a mother, portrayed in myth as the queen goddess of the world. Like the Father, she too is ambivalent. She represents the promise of perfection and the threat of destruction. A Hindu portrait of this cosmic mother gives her 4 arms, one with a fear not gesture, another bestowing gifts, another brandishing a bloody saber, and the 4th holding a severed head. Again, self-imageless, the hero or heroine sees their child from the vantage of the cosmic or the eternal, which heals childhood wounds, and in the course of which the hero or heroine finds something sacred and supportive, which feeds the soul. Facing these mother goddesses or father gods, the successful hero faces his or her fears and hopes regarding his or her parents, but now receives infinite spiritual support rather than finite parental support. Supported now by something spiritual, seeing life from a cosmic perspective, one transcends these childhood hopes and fears to become oneself. In other words, the spiritual journey involves the death of self-protective ideas of who one is, that being the persona, developed and relied upon in childhood. That protective persona is now gone. One is then open to receive spiritual support for the birth of or initiation into being oneself. In my case, receiving spiritual support, I don't have to be the cautious, good son all my life. I can receive spiritual support with which to be myself. As a corollary result of the journey, the hero moves past seeing the world as good or bad according to his or her wants. The hero finds that being alive transcends good and bad. Life becomes an ambiguous mystery, less to be judged, more to be lived. In my case, at the ministers' meeting, when my courage rallied and I made my motion, I did not expect my colleagues to accept it. In fact, they turned it right down. But that didn't matter. I had expressed myself. I was beyond good and bad, acceptance and rejection. I had faced a fear and emerged alive, and so good or bad, acceptance or rejection were irrelevant. It was just me being alive. And so on the spiritual journey, the hero goes into an unfamiliar realm, enters the underworld, battles, lets the self-image die, faces goddess or god, sees life with a new and larger perspective, is reborn, and returns home with new power and a life-giving message that the Spirit offers healing and infinite support. I know with my motion I may not have bestowed upon my colleagues a life-giving elixir, but speaking up, I did give them more aliveness than I would have sitting quiet and afraid. In mythology, the hero's return restores the world. As one fairy tale concludes, a prince looking for a princess enters a castle that has been under a spell and sleeping for 100 years. Everyone is asleep, seemingly dead. Searching the castle, he finds the princess, also asleep. At last, there she is, the end of the journey. He marvels at her beauty, leans over and kisses her. She opens her eyes, awakes, and looks at him fondly. Together they come down the stairs, and the king wakes, and the queen, and the entire courtly estate, and all look at each other with big eyes. and the horses in the court stand up and shake themselves. The hunting dogs jump and wag their tails. The pigeons on the roof draw their heads out from under their wings, look around, and fly across the field. The flies on the wall walk again. The fire in the kitchen brightens, flickers, and cooks the dinner. The roast begins to sizzle. The cook gives the scullery boy a box in the ear that makes him yell, and the maid finishes plucking the chicken. Jesus lives. Persephone emerges from the underworld, and the spring flowers bloom. Odysseus returns to Ithaca. The Buddha teaches a way to enlightenment. I offer emotion. The hero, having journeyed through his or her personal terror, surpasses fear. Good and bad, life and death, divine and human, it is all one. The hero floats on a sea of being, alive and aware. And finally, though it is life-giving, the hero's message upsets the status quo. So in time, the world takes the message, interprets it, analyzes it, cools its ardor, and makes it safe. Jesus' message of love, though wonderful, is unsettling, so it is dulled in tomes of theology and law, which means there is something to be faced. And it's time for another hero to venture out of the village, carrying amulets and potions through the clashing opposites into the unknown, to battle ogres and dragons, and be swallowed into the belly of the whale and die, and be given grace and mercy by the Father God, and be embraced by the goddess mother of the world, and become alive as oneself to return and restore the world. Well, this is again a support community, and one of the ways we support each other is by pooling our financial resources to create opportunities to meet together in a building and have support from each other. So for that, let us take the offering. Let's take a moment of silence. And in this meditative mood, I invite those who wish to share a joy or concern, something we may celebrate together, or something for which you would like the healing energy of our shared meditation.
I'm the chair of an organization called the Union Multiracial Unity Action Council that's centered in Chicago. It was founded by a Black Baptist minister named Finley Campbell, who died just a few weeks short of his 89th birthday. And his memorial service is next Saturday. And since I'm now the chair of that organization, I feel I should be there. And I don't like crying, so I'm going to drive. So I'm going to go on a kind of journey, probably lasting 5 days. But I I want to do it because I need to think about the future of the organization, right now that the founder and original leader is gone. So I won't be here next week, but that's fine.
As Joy from last week, it's interesting, and amazing, and kind of a beautiful coincidence. And after Richard's service on the song Amazing Grace, we went, Beth and I went to a cookout with some friends, and a party at a cookout, and it was Dave, the guy who played with me, it was at the home of him, Dave's former boss and his wife. The man's wife is from Malawi, which is in Africa near Mozambique, Tanzania. And she had a whole bunch of relatives and friends coming over to visit. There were probably about a dozen. I think perhaps about 7 of them were part of the church group. So Dave and I were playing for a little bit, and then it got time to eat. People had been cooking on the grill and putting food out. And these people asked us if they could use our microphones and sing a blessing. So they sang a blessing for the food. And this blessing went on for about, I don't know, went on for several minutes. And I say that with much admiration and respect. These people really felt it. There's no perfunctory exercise. They really felt what they were singing. And the blessing went on for a bit. And then after that, one of the women turned to me and said something about my guitar, and I thought she was asking if she could use it. But what she wanted was for Dave and me to play with them. Dave and I looked at each other, and as many of you know, our repertoire is pretty firmly ensconced in the secular world, so we didn't know what we could sing with these, we could play with these people. And I said, "Do you know Amazing Grace?" And she said, "Yes." So we worked out the chords in a few minutes, and Dave and I played Amazing Grace while these people sang.
Probably seven voices, and you would have thought there were 30 people singing. It was amazing.
Powerful, very powerful.
Anybody else enjoy the songs? Well, I have one joy. My joy is, of course, every Sunday being here with my family in the Unitarian Church, and I'm blessed to be here every week. Every day I wake up and I thank my higher power to give me the strength. I have a defibrillator that I rely on, AA battery. And I was watching a commercial of the Energizer bunny running around with the AA battery. It always makes me think that if this battery would ever stop, what would happen? So I'm concerned, but I always feel that the power of God is up there and He's keeping me with the strength every day. That I get out and do what I want to do, and not get to the point where if the battery does, it does. If it doesn't, it won't. Because I think I have the power in me. God has been protecting me since I've had this defibrillator, and I'm blessed to be here, like I say, with my family.
Well, one hymn that does a nice treatment of the spiritual journey and reflects grace that can happen in so many ways and places. Let's sing together hymn 205, Amazing Grace.
I
Thank you. Thank you for everybody who participated in this service today, everybody who's here. We are fellow travelers. We are journeying home. May we go in peace. Amen.